And sometimes things happen to you under adverse circumstances, and you need to be reported.
Needs to be
Sometimes
reported.
that helps. And look what happened to the housing industries. These people did, and like you said, the economic situations can be adverse, negatively
Hmm.
affect you adverse. Well, these people at these three credit places, they don't know this.
That's
All
right.
they know is what your creditor is reporting to them. They're not reporting to them why.
That's right.
So you have to take responsibility and accountability for what happened. You couldn't help what happened either.
Exactly.
So you need to just take that leap
Hmm.
and report what has happened to you and the circumstances
Hmm.
that happened to you.
That you have a chance to explain your side and what happened, and
Yeah,
know that, like you said earlier, you were not at complete fault of what happened,
that's right.
but that it happened to something that was it was unforeseen. You didn't
Exactly.
plan this. It happened. It's one of those things that, just like death. We don't always know when we're gonna check out here. We didn't know when we were gonna check in here
No, sure
either.
didn't.
So
That's right.
life brings unexpected, and you
Yeah.
can address those on your
Mhm.
credit. A
Mhm.
lot of people don't know that.
Mhm.
I meet a lot of people from time to time that when their credit takes a negative turn, or they start falling behind in bills, they just stop. They don't deal with it
Mhm.
at all.
Mhm.
And in the workshops, I try to urge people, you don't stop fighting.
No.
You don't ever stop fighting,
No.
because this is your future.
That's right.
And you have, through the laws, through the guidelines, Fair Credit Report Act of 1971, the Federal Trade Commission, um, even the laws that are governed by the Attorney General's office. There's a way out. It's almost like, I always tie things as spiritually sometimes. Salvation. We messed up, but there's a redemption power that help us clean up.
Amen.
It's the
Thank
same
God for
thing.
that.
It's the
Amen.
same thing. We're here to help people clean up the mess.
Hmm.
The song they sing, I gotta clean up.
Yeah.
Starting my life all over
That's
again.
right. That's
And
right.
many of us, we have to do that. We went out
That's
there,
right.
we bought the car we couldn't afford. We bought the house we was overextended.
Hmm.
We got into the mess with credit cards.
Yes.
But there's a way through Credit Repair Education Service
Hmm.
that we empower you
Hmm.
to start your life over again,
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
clean up what you messed up.
That's right. That's right.
And if you are in a situation where you don't want to see the light at the end of the tunnel,
Hmm.
then God help you.
That's right. I understand even now those persons that lost their houses during that terrible economic downfall downwind now are being given an opportunity to go back and get a house. But of course, there's going to be certain requirements and criterias in which that happen, that they have a reprieve now, that they can go back and get
Mm-hmm.
another house. So you know you just got to be able to stand up and willing to fight, like you said, for your credit.
And you're right. And I want to address what you had brought up about the collection agency. Do you not realize, and this is again one of the things that we cover in the credit repair education workshops, like you went on the internet and you found out the information of that collection agency.
Yeah.
You can get their address and provide a letter to the collection agency to stop calling you,
Mm-hmm. Sure you can.
and send it certified.
Mm-hmm.
So we address that. We give you the ingredients of that letter,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll even write that letter for you once you retain us to do that.
All right.
But we teach you how to write it,
Okay.
so that when you say it, it can't be tossed to the side.
Mm-hmm.
They got to reply.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The other thing we
And
do,
then you can take that same letter and send them to all three:
all three,
Equifax.
TransUnion,
Uh-huh.
Experian,
Exactly.
because they
So
the one,
you'll know
it's
that
on
it got
record.
to. There you go.
It's on record.
Mm-hmm.
Because one thing people, everybody has to understand, when you're dealing with business, everything got to be documented.
Exactly.
Everything got to be
And that's
documented.
one thing that we fail, and I'm not saying because we are racist people, but you got to document. That's the important key,
Mm-hmm.
documentation, and
Mm-hmm.
we fail to do that. We fail to document.
Every time. There are a lot of people. I know there are people listening right now.
Mm-hmm.
They could have gotten a windfall of cash from a large lawsuit, but they can't because they don't have the documentation.
Mm-hmm.
to show where they were damaged,
Exactly.
to show that they were a victim. You know, they'd be on ads on the TV all the time, these big class action lawsuits. You might have been prescribed a particular drug. You had side effects, but you done throw away all the prescriptions.
That's right.
Document that you could get you a few $100,000. That way you be coming out of the debt right there. But because you've been so careless and lackluster in being responsible, you don't have not even a receipt.
Yeah, we gotta learn to document.
You gotta document.
We gotta learn to
And
document.
we used to call it like CYB, cover your behind.
Yeah,
You know,
that's right.
you have to do that. And the other thing I want to bring up to cover what you had talked about, you can even send a letter letting that collection agency know that your intention is to take legal action against them.
Sure, you're right.
See, there are provisions that if you keep getting these calls, you keep getting harassed, you get getting called at all times of the night, harassing letters, or them threatening to arrest you, you can notify them by certified mail that you are intending to take legal action. Just like they send you letters talking about they're gonna take legal action. Guess what? The tide can turn. That you can send them notification that you'll do the same thing to them. So we have to know that there is help. Also, you can also send a notification to them that if they fail to validate the debt that they're contacting you about, that you can notify them that you're going to intend to take legal action. And then the one thing that one of my favorites is called a cease and desist letter. Now, for our listeners who don't know what that is, cease and desist letter is a letter urging them that you desire them to stop contact. That means cease and desist. That means stop. Period. So that means don't call me no more.
Okay.
You document on that. You call my house 3 or 4 times during the month of April. And regarding, you can even put on there the debt that they're calling you about. Now, sometimes I urge people, you get your pen just like you did. You get a pen. You get, who am I speaking with now? And what is this regarding? You get it. You get all of that down. And what is your employee ID number? Or what is your, you get all of that. And the name of the company. I don't care if they talking about client relation. Yeah, all right, we're going to get that too. Right on it. And you document it. You call me on April the 3rd, April the 9th, April the 12th in your letter. And you are now hereby issued a cease and desist letter under the regulations of the FCRA Act of 1971. You always have that law provision there under that.
Right.
To let them know this ain't, you're not doing this because the Lord told you to do it.
Okay.
You're doing this because the law of the land is enforceable.
Okay.
That if you do not comply with this letter, you can subject to penalty, which means money in your pocket. You won't worry about the debt nor them.
That's right.
Because you can, and it always documented. Keep
And
it.
some of us can get up off our sick beds if we would just do that. Because this stuff brings on stress and sickness to the mind and the body. When all we got to do is just write a letter or get somebody to help us out of this, and we'll be rid of it. It makes it makes your body feel a whole lot better.
Well, it goes back to, and I used to hear this years ago, and I hear it all the time. And even the Bible talks about, or the scriptures say, rightly divide the word of truth. And I would urge anybody that's listening, you have to know how to rightly divide faith and foolishness. Because the scriptures also lets us know, faith without works is dead. That means if you can sit around and talk about what you think and you believe the Lord gonna do all you want to. You got to put some things to action. You gotta make some moves. Like, I'll give an example. It makes no earthly sense. Because you have some people who are so spiritually minded and no earthly good. And they may say, I'm believing God for a car. Sister Mary, Brother Darrell, Minister McGirt, I'm believing God for a 2013 Cadillac.
Mm-hmm.
But here's where the faith turns into foolishness. And it turns into where the works are dead. Now, they believe God for the car. They even going out there to the car lot, putting olive oil on the Cadillac that belongs to that man at that dealership. They going out there believe. They done wrote the name of the car down and put all that down. But here's where the works fall on idle ground. They don't have no license. They don't have no money for the insurance.
That's right.
They're not even going out there taking a class to get their license. They never, or either they've had license, the license revoked. They owe the insurance company some money to pay all that back premium back off to get that revoked situations that removed. Or they got DUIs that they need to resolve. That if they don't get that resolved, they won't get no license to buy a car, because now you gotta have it if you're gonna finance the car.
That's right.
And they got it now where even if you're gonna pay cash for a car, you gotta show ID, and which is more likely a driver's license. You don't even have an ID. So I say all that to say this: we can sit around all day long and we can quote scriptures and we can talk about what the Lord gonna do, but the Lord's gonna tell you what are you gonna do for you to get things in motion. One thing I learned in life, and I can tell anybody this, not from what I heard or what I just believe. I'm telling you from what I know. If you get out there and you start making some action, you start getting there, moving, get in the press. Like even Paul talked about, he said, I press toward the mark of the prize of the high call. So that means he was on his way. And in the midst of him being on the way, God got in the midst of that thing. And Christians have got to, realize faith does not give you a pass to be lazy. It doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of believers who they just use faith to be lazy, justify laziness. They don't keep no records. They don't sit down and concentrate on how to get things in order. Mm-hmm. You can run the church till the cows come home. But there's some things and obligations you have to do, some due diligence you got to do outside of the church.
That's right.
To function and exist in an earthly world. Because all the shouting and speaking in tongues and hoo ta 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 ta, all you want. When you get through tap dancing, and there's nothing wrong with it, don't get me wrong. Because the beautiful thing is about worshiping God. Mm-hmm. He's still worthy of the praise. But you have to come to a point where at some point, I got to sit down and balance this checkbook register. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I got to sit down and see what bills I got to pay this month and some of them I can get an extension on. Mm-hmm. I got to keep my receipts showing that I paid my money, mm-hmm. and a copy of my money order. So if anything come up shaky, I got my records.
That's right.
So we cover those things in the workshop because we got a duty to ourselves. We got to be good stewards, mm-hmm. over what God, that's right. has given us. Yeah, absolutely. And if he see, like the word of God declares, when you're faithful over a few things, he'll make us rulers over many. Mm-hmm. So the time for us to recapture what belongs to us anyway. Mm-hmm. And people run around here. I meet pastors sometimes. They're in worse financial shape than the members. But he swear to God, he's a leader. Mm-hmm. He got to be a leader of his whole household. Mm-hmm. How can you leave me and your car repo, you catching a cab to church? Mm-hmm. God. You catching a cab to preach to me and prophesy to me. Okay. A leader has to be an example, mm-hmm. that makes people aspire to want to follow him. Mm-hmm. When I see my leader riding up on a nice car, dressed nice, he's responsible. When he pull his card out at the restaurant or at the store, it's clicking. It ain't denied. Okay. Yes. That's the kind of leader I want to follow. Mm-hmm. As opposed to somebody like, look, can you give me $20? Mm-hmm. Ain't you the pastor? Mm-hmm. You be paying for it. Because the pastor's like the parents of those members. Yes. He's styled as the shepherd. Yes. You've never known a sheep feed a shepherd. You've never seen it. Absolutely right. Now, maybe somebody out there, a theologian, can maybe find something deeper than what I just explained, but The shepherd carries the sheep.
Yes, right.
He guides them to greener pastures.
Right.
He don't guide them to no drought. Now that's the way I understood it.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm nobody's genius, but I'm nobody's dummy either.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always known that's why Christ uses that analogy.
Mm-hmm.
Because the shepherd will leave that whole flock to go get that one sheep that done wandered out there and pick him up and carry him all the way back and get him back in the
Take care of him.
take care of him.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And like you said, we gotta be mindful. We gotta take care of some things, even the smallest of things that we need to be accountable for. And I was reading someplace where, and I was still reading about debt, and not trying to change the subject.
Oh no.
Even the smallest of debt, we have to be conscious of it, because that small little debt, that bill that you owe can grow into something astronomical.
Mountain to molehill.
That's right. I was reading on the internet where this man had a bill for just $13 that ended up on his credit bureau report, ended up being $1,300. Tell us about that, Pastor.
Woo.
You see how that could grow? And the debt, the creditor, probably assuming that the hospital is not going to continue to send you a letter for $13, you know, and certainly they're just going to do what? Turn it over to the credit
to collection agency, and it's still accruing interest. It's like, people get sometimes people think because the bank comes and report a car, that's the end of it. No, it's not. They keep running that balance until they sell it again. They keep accruing interest because they look at it like this: until it gets sold and to get out of your name, you still own that car. You just can't use it. And that's how, like you were bringing up that analogy. People think, well, I ain't paying it no more. I'm done with it. But that don't close out the issue. You still may have interest. You may have fees accruing on it that they're entitled to collect or file a judgment against you for that plus interest. Or it might be rent, it might be a mortgage. But you have a responsibility to, like you said, take care of it before it becomes from a molehill to a mountain. It's just the way it is. You have to. It's the little foxes that can spoil the branch.
And it's just as hard to get that off of your credit report as it is something big on there, and they're just not willing to. You got to go through the same red tape as if you had borrowed $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. And they're gonna harass you the same way. That $13 that you could have easily have paid, but sometimes you don't get the bill for the $13, or even if you get it, you probably just put it over there and said, I'll pay it sometime, or $. And sometimes you don't even get the 13. If you did, you got it one time, you forgot it, or you didn't get it. But still, you're gonna have just as much problem with that little $13 if you don't get it and you're not responsible for it enough to take care of it, as you would. And it'll roll over, like you said, $1,300 that you got to pay for $13.
Because had you done what you're supposed to do from the beginning, it would never got that high. And here again, I do it all the time. It's just like you could have an issue, and you may keep saying to yourself, I'm delivered, I got this, I'm all right. But then 3 months later, it's done got worse. It's done got worse than it had been had you took care of it when you first knew you had the problem. Just like your health. You can start out just a little small pain in your back, but you keep denying it and not handling it. Then you find out you got cancer. It's done spread to your body.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
It's done spread all over your body.
It's the little. You're absolutely right. So we just have to be just be mindful and be careful and just do what we got to do to take care of business. Take care of business and be serious about this business of debt. There is hope, though.